Very nice to meet you.
Welcome to our university. The developer of the area.
Because we say every day, but I'm going in 2006.
And 21 and 27. U Square and Minister President Boris Didier would have loved to peace our future, and by 2050, 70% of the world population green, inclusive, and close to citizens. And U Square.
Powerful signal. A signal of the importance of European cohesion.
Ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the Brussels capital region.
Ik zou en français, vrij onderzoek in Dutch. Dear Secretary of State, dear Rector, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a very clear and positive example how it's possible to go in the right direction in the use of the resources of cohesion policy. And
the old time we're making all houses in adobe. You can find it. And also you see here, this was everything. When you cut someone, you dismantle someone, the idea was always, okay, where can we use it again?
some projects.
We can also do some seminars, you have some place to chat. So the idea is very to be flexible. From the public side, we are a little bit like in a window shop, but yeah, why not? Another example of seeing the space like a resource, but you need also sociologists, you need also economics, Frontwriter and things like that. And we just have that project, which is the former corridor main entrance of the building. It's also something we learned. If you want a furniture, you first have to create the density that can use the space in between. You can test future in some. We see on the both sides of the hall, and it will become student housing, also to give more visibility to the Fab Lab, but also to animate this place, which will become a very
So good afternoon and welcome to this hybrid press briefing following the video conference for energy ministers. I would like to ask you to bear with us for a couple of minutes to check that our connection with the minister is uninterrupted. Minister, can you speak so we can...
We can't hear you.
The microphone of the press room, please.
Minister, can you hear us? Minister, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. I think we're ready to start. Again, welcome. Today, following this video conference for energy ministers, we will be having our press conference in a hybrid format. From Nicosia online, we will have our Minister of Commerce, Energy and Industry, Michael Damianos, joining us.
Recording in progress.
And here with us in the press room is the Commissioner for Energy and Housing, Dan Jorgensen. So I will now give the floor to our Minister, Damianos, who will outline the key elements that was discussed in the room earlier today. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Berna. Good afternoon. Just concluded today's informal energy video conference with constructive exchanges on the current energy situation in light of the ongoing conflict in the Gulf and the Middle East, which continues to create uncertainty in global energy markets. I would like to thank Commissioner Dan Jorgensen for his ongoing work and commitment in addressing the current challenging situation and advancing a shared European response. Our discussions today align with the broader vision of the Cyprus presidency, building a Europe that is competitive, resilient, and strategically independent in the current challenging geopolitical environment. Ministers confirmed that for now, the Union's security of supply remains relatively safeguarded thanks to the EU's diversification of LNG and oil sources in recent years and our already limited dependence on imports from the Gulf area. Nevertheless, ensuring supply security for the 2026-2027 winter remains a key priority. Ministers also underlined that rising global energy prices are affecting all member states, particularly households and industry. As a net energy importer in a highly interconnected global market, the EU is exposed to external price volatility. I welcome the broad support for the Presidency's proposal on shaping a coordinated European response. We agreed that EU and national measures must be carefully designed, coordinated, targeted and tailored to the current situation while remaining fully consistent with our long-term objectives, notably decarbonisation, diversification of suppliers and reduced reliance on imported fossil fuels. We also recognise the need for stronger coordination at EU level, especially regarding gas storage targets, to prevent further price pressures. Member States highlighted several key points: the need for caution in the use of strategic oil reserves to avoid compromising future supply security, closer coordination on gas storage refiling to prevent upward pressure on prices, ensuring access to timely and accurate data supported by the Commission to guide decision-making, avoiding measures that may distort the internal energy market. We agreed that high-quality data and clear guidance from the Commission will be essential for Member States to respond effectively. Ministers also stressed that reducing energy demand remains central to our response. Improving energy efficiency and promoting energy savings are essential tools to mitigate price spikes, strengthen resilience, and enhance the Union's overall energy security. The EU will continue working with international partners, including the International Energy Agency, to ensure coordinated efforts that limit price volatility and reinforce global energy security. New supply agreements must remain fully compatible with our internal market and climate objectives. Our global partnerships should enhance the EU's strategic position while safeguarding long-term sustainability, resilience and competitiveness. The Cyprus presidency remains committed to accelerating Europe's clean energy transition, a transition that not only shields us from future price shocks, but also positions Europe as a leader in global sustainability. In conclusion, today's meeting was not only about addressing immediate challenges. It was about laying the foundations for a stronger, more secure and more sustainable energy future for Europe. We will continue to work together in coordination and unity in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I will now give the floor to Commissioner Jorgensen. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
First of all, let me thank the Cypriot presidency and thank you, Minister, personally for agreeing to convene this extraordinary meeting. Now more than ever, it is extremely important that we all stand together and act together. Let me start by a few numbers. Since the beginning of the conflict in the Middle East, prices in the EU have risen by around 70% for gas and by 60% for oil. In financial terms, 30 days of conflict have already added 14 billion euros to the Union's fossil fuels import bill. 14 billion euros. These numbers paint a very clear picture. As the crisis in the Middle East enters its second month, it is clear that we are facing a very serious situation. While there are no immediate oil and gas supply shortages in the European Union, we see tightening in certain product markets, notably diesel and jet fuel, as well as increasing constraints in global gas markets and its spillover effect into electricity prices. This situation threatens to impose further costs on our industries and our households. We should be under no illusion that the consequences of this crisis for the energy markets will be short-lived, because they won't. It is therefore extremely important that we take action in unity and in close coordination, and that we avoid fragmented national responses and disruptive signals to the market. Our measures must be targeted, they must be temporary, and avoid worsening supply and demand conditions. I'm very grateful to the ministers for having shared insights on their national situations and measures under consideration or already taken. From the Commission side, we are already coordinating actions on gas storage refilling and oil security of supply. And here my message is very clear. Better to be prepared than to be sorry. We are working on a toolbox of measures which we will present soon to support Member States in shielding families and businesses alike. But while supporting those in need, we must stay the course on our long-term strategy. This crisis shows us once again that Europe faces a fundamental vulnerability to external energy shocks. And this is linked to our dependency on imported fossil fuels. This is why this must be the time we finally learn this lesson. This is why this must be the time we finally turn the tide and truly become energy independent. If we are to create conditions for good jobs for EU citizens, for economic security and security overall, Europe can no longer afford to be exposed to the volatility of the global fossil fuel markets. Energy independence is the way forward, and it is a strategic imperative, economically, and from a security point of view, not just for the climate. Homegrown clean energy, electrification, modernized interconnections, and energy efficiency. This is the only way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now we will open the floor to questions, both from the room and also from those who are following us online today. So let me start from here, maybe with Maria.
Hello, thanks for the floor, Berna. Maria Psara with Cyprus Public TV, RIK. I have two questions for Commissioner. The first is that in your letter that you sent ahead of this meeting to the Member States, you recommend measures especially for transport sector. What could this mean? Limited fuel consumption or reduction of flights are between these measures that you recommend. Which is your message to the governments? And the second question is very quick. When will you present this toolbox? You said soon, but how soon can we expect it? Thank you.
So, on the demand reduction measures, there are a lot to be learned from the crisis in 22, but of course there's also the difference that the crisis in 22 were primarily a gas crisis, whereas we now, of course, are facing a broader range of problems, notably with regards to oil and even more with regards to certain products like jet fuel and diesel. So what we are recommending to the Member States is to look at IEA's toolbox, the 10-point plan, to find inspiration. We also know, of course, that there are different national circumstances. That means that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But it is clear that the more you can do to save oil, especially diesel, especially jet fuel, the better we are off. And therefore, we will continue to also help share best practices and give guidance to Member States. On the timing of the different measures, we will be ready to put forward a package quite soon, but it's also clear that we are monitoring the situation closely, and the situation will continue to be quite dynamic, and therefore we will also be flexible and ready to put forward measures when and if needed.
Thank you. We'll move to the next question. I will try to take as many as possible, but let's take from here.
Yes, good afternoon, Mark Beberkorn, Volkskrant. Commissioner, two questions. One is a follow-up on Maria's question, because you mentioned these recommendations to save energy, especially diesel and kerosene. Did the Member States agree with this? Are they going to do it? Are they going to, let's say, to coordinate this plan to reduce the demand? And two, you said in your introduction, this crisis and the consequences will not be short-lived. Can you explain this? Why do you think it will take a long time? And could you maybe also say how long? Thanks.
Sure. So nobody knows how long the crisis will be. But I think it's very important to underline that it will not be short. Because even if there was a peace tomorrow, there would still be consequences. Because energy infrastructure in the region has been ruined by the war and continuously is being ruined by the war. So obviously we all hope for a peace as soon as possible, but what I find extremely important is to state as clearly as I can that even if that peace is here tomorrow, still we will not go back to normal in a foreseeable future. So on the actual demand reduction actions, the IEA has recommended a 10-point plan, which includes work from home where possible, reduce highway speed limits by at least 10 kilometers, encourage public transport, alternate private car access to roads in large cities in different ways, increase car sharing and adopt efficient driving practices, efficient driving for road commercial vehicles and delivering of goods, and a few others that are equally useful. It's very clear that this is not, of course, something that can be seen as a one-size-fits-all package where we expect all member states to implement all 10 of these demand reduction tools. But it is a very good toolbox, and we very much recommend that every country look at which possibilities they have. Now, of course, I primarily see it as my responsibility to put forward the common European solutions, and this package will be ready to be presented quite soon. There's already things there that member states can use. The citizen energy package that we presented recently is full of things that can be done to lower prices for citizens and households. We've also put forward recommendations on taxes. Lowering taxes, especially on electricity, would be very timely now. Do whatever you can is my very clear encouragement to member states to get renewable energy online. There are renewable energy projects that are almost finished or are indeed finished, but because of grids or lack of storage, they're not online. Things like that, we very much encourage member states to speed up processes to make happen.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Now, let's go to Beck.
Okay, David Vidoiro, Spanish National Radio. One of the ideas of the letter you sent to the member states was that they should refrain from taking measures that may increase fuel consumption. So in the light of this, could we consider that reducing taxes to fuel, as Spain has made, could be a mistake? Thanks.
Well, as I said, there is no one-size-fits-all solution, and I very much, of course, understand that different countries have different circumstances, and it's also clear that we need to be very mindful to help as much as we can our more vulnerable groups. Having said that, I will say that on an overall level, it's obvious that when we are in a situation that might worsen, where indeed demand reduction is necessary, I very much encourage member states to take that into consideration when applying different crisis measures.
Thank you. We'll go to Kate.
Thank you. Kate Abnett with Reuters. Commissioner, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has already said that the Commission will present legal proposals on grid tariffs and also on lowering tax rates on electricity to try and curb the impacts on energy prices. Is that what you're referring to with the toolbox? Is that what will be in it, or are there other things that you want to include? Thanks.
Yes, that is indeed what I'm referring to, but there will also be other things. For instance, some of the financial instruments that are already out there to decouple gas prices from electricity prices, PPAs, CFDs. We want to make it even easier for member states and industries to deploy these tools. State aid, already there are good opportunities for member states to support vulnerable groups or industries that are under extraordinary stress right now, but we will make these possibilities even simpler and even wider. So it'll be a whole range of different tools that can be used. also on the short term. Then, of course, it's also clear that since we don't know how long this crisis will last and since we don't know how deep it will be, we are also preparing different opportunities and possibilities that look more like the ones we used under the crisis in 22. But it's also still important for me to underline that we are better situated to dealing with this crisis than we were in 22. We have much more renewables, thereby homegrown cheap energy in our system. This is the primary reason why we are in a better place than we were then. But we've also diversified our energy supply. So the imports that we get of fossils are from more different sources. Now, where the situation differs, of course, and where in many ways the effects can be more complicated than they were in 22, is in the fact that we are so dependent on world market prices that are going up. And that is a more diverse range of products that are being affected. So we can learn from 22, but we will also have to add on to the 22 experience.
Thank you. John?
John Angel from Bloomberg News. Just to follow up on that, I mean, some of the things that were introduced in 2022 included things like demand reduction, windfall taxes, gas price cap. Could you just elaborate a bit more on which of those you might be considering? And also what was said in the room, what did member states call for? Did you see much appetite for a windfall tax, for example? Thank you.
So these are indeed some of the different things that we are looking at because, as I said, it's better to be prepared than to be sorry. But I will also say that we are in a very different situation. So some of the member states that in 22 had to deploy different types of schemes that supported subsidized gas purchase to keep down the prices in general and also for electricity because of the coupling of the two prices will not be in the same situation now because they are fortunately now at a place where they get a higher degree of their energy from renewables. Windfall taxes, the same. The very, very big extraordinary profits that we saw when the price of gas went as high as they did for as many hours as they did. We don't foresee a similar situation, but indeed if we do approach a similar situation like that, then that is a possibility, that is to deploy some of the same tools that were used and efficiently used during the crisis in 22. Last question.
Last question. Okay. Shall we take from the back?
Hello, Valeria Pashko, Public Broadcaster of Ukraine. How ministers brought up the issue of Druzhba pipeline, especially in the context of energy security of the EU? Probably Hungarian or Slovak minister could have mentioned that. And do you have any updates on the EU mission who is supposed to be in Kyiv or somewhere near the Druzhba pipeline to inspect whether it's damaged or not? Thanks.
So we have stated, and President von der Leyen has stated, that we stand ready, of course, to help solve this situation, and we hope it will be resolved. I will also use this opportunity to say that solidarity with Ukraine was brought up in the meeting by many ministers. It's very clear that when one crisis hits, then you sometimes risk to forget other crises, but Ukraine can stand assured that we will not forget you, and even though member states of the European Union are also struggling and may be struggling even more in the months to come, we are committed to stand side by side with Ukraine and keep helping as much as we can. Of course, the portfolio that I'm responsible for, energy, is one that is very relevant in that regard, since Russia is continuing their terrible attacks on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, and we help as much as possible rebuild this infrastructure and replace with different sources the energy that is needed, so that citizens of Ukraine will not be without electricity or without heat. Thank you.
I think there is one question from online for the spirit of the hybrid. Hybrid press conference. I would like to take this one from Menelaos. Can we take it?
Hi, yeah. Just curious, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. The commissioner mentioned diversification of supply. Just wanted to know, where is the EU looking for more diverse supply of energy at this point? Where is this coming from? And also looking a bit more long term, of course, in the Eastern Mediterranean, there's gas. Is there any thought for over the long term for the EU, perhaps expedite exploration of gas within its own region, area, neighborhood, and so and diversify that supply? Thanks.
Yeah, so one of the things that the crisis in 22 learned us the hard way was that it is not nice to be so dependent on any one source. Of course, it's extra serious when that source turns out to be an enemy. And let me also use this opportunity to underline that we stand by our ban on buying Russian gas. We should never repeat the mistakes of the past, allowing Putin to weaponize energy against us and blackmail member states of the European Union. Just as, of course, it would be totally unacceptable if we in the future kept buying energy that would then indirectly help finance the terrible war that Putin is conducting in Ukraine. Now, on diversification, we are in the process of replacing the Russian gas, and we've gone from 45% of our gas being Russian to probably around 10% as we speak now, and that will go down to zero. And the new sources are especially the US. Number one is Norway, as it has always been, almost always been, and then it's the US, and then we have other countries like Azerbaijan, Algeria, Canada, and we're looking into, of course, also smaller producers out there on the world market that we can maybe have even closer connections to. I will say, though, that this is really a problem that manifests itself in the higher world market prices. So yes, of course, it matters who it is that you import from, and especially when there's long-term contracts involved, then that can be an advantage for the demand side. But it is clear that the pressure on the world market really is what constitutes this problem and what makes it so severe. And we're doing everything we can every day to try and limit these negative consequences in Europe. But it is also important to acknowledge and be cognizant that many of our partners and friends around the world are hit much harder. And we want to act in solidarity with, for instance, partners in Asia that are right now struggling not only with prices, but actually with security of supply. So we are also in contact with these partners, and we try and help as much as we can and coordinate as much as we can. And we will continue to monitor this as closely as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we conclude, I would like to go back to the minister, because he warned me that he wants to include some comments from Nicosia. So, Minister, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. So, member states, just wanted to add that member states emphasize the need for unity, coordination, and solidarity, with many having participated in the IEA's collective call stock release and taken into consideration the IEA 10-point recommendation. Several member states stressed the importance of accelerating renewables, interconnection, storage, and the grid package as structural long-term solutions. Caution was also advised against uncoordinated national measures, direct price interventions, and weakening mandates for biofuels. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Commissioner. And thanks for your interest.